All right, Shalom. I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles of GMS, and a sincere Shalom to the brothers out here pushing his truth and sincerity, and a Shalom to the hopeful elect out there. And what I have here is going into something a little different, nothing out of range, but it's another article going into why are our kids so miserable, and it had me thinking because of how we see our people today coming from. I mean, because it always starts young. It never starts when they're older, but it always starts when they're young, growing up, especially with the slave mentality our people have today. And to go further into it, it's when you sit there and look at our people are like the children in the mindset, even coming from when I was younger, seeing other children, they've been raised messed up. It's not to say, hell, I didn't even have a perfect childhood. A lot of my childhood was broken, really, in different ways. But just seeing how other kids are just raised, especially specifically by their mothers, who you do where you do got some actual genuine mothers trying to be good out there, but you got the really messed up mothers that's slapping the little boys around. Meanwhile, and the boys be all dirty looking. Meanwhile, the girls look all pretty and stuff. It shows the difference in us, and they always try to equate that we equal. But everybody's childhood shows that we're unequal. So to go, I'm gonna go ahead and start with this article. I'm not gonna go to the full thing, but just the gist of it. And it says something in modern life is undermining mental health. And coming into this truth, we know what's undermining mental health. It's the fact that we didn't put in this captivity. But let's bring it down from a different standpoint, and let's go on the average lifestyle. We have we're being brought into the world. We gotta, of course, the parents gotta take care of the children and all that sort of stuff. But the child eventually has to grow up, not to adult yet, but you gotta grow up in a toddler to a child and go to daycare. Who's in these daycares a lot of times? Because I could tell you, even when I was younger, it was women. You may have like one or two guys, which I saw one or two guys there, but it was mostly women. What do you guys see going to school? More women. Who do you go back home to majority of the time, especially if you don't have a father? More women. The father structure is not there. And then when you're placing these schools, especially as a young man, or yeah, basically as a young man, you want to go outside and play a lot of times. The school ain't meant for us to just sit there and for 8 hours a day and do nothing. I mean, that's the whole reason why they gave it to little children in the first place. They called it recess. Well, that was recess only lasts about, I think, from pre-K to elementary, and then once you go to middle school on up, you don't get those things no more. So now you're deprived. You're deprived of fun. Now you gotta actually sit there in the school and sit there for 8 hours a day and try to cram all this stuff in that we don't really care for. I mean, except for just the basics of shapes and math and reading and maybe science if you're into it. But then you go to high school and get all the algebra and all this other stuff that you don't need unless you're doing certain requirements for jobs like construction. You're not going to retain any of it. And then you got to sit there and actually pass a test for it. So the things that we're supposed to be doing, we're not doing. And then you want people, then it warps into people got to get ideologies. It goes into everybody's mind string into to different things. This is why we're not even in our right rulership, because we number one, we done messed up, but Esau them plagued our mind to the point that when we're adults, we're still children. We don't know what it's like to be a man or be a woman. So it says, and like I said, I'm making this actually kind of short in the article. But it says specifically something undermining young people's mental health, especially girls. Of course, they would say girls, but it's really both on both ends. But they only say especially girls because there's more women than men. Now it says in her paper, Twinge looks at four studies covering 7 million people, ranging from teens to the U.S. to the teens to adults in the U.S. Among her findings, which later on they explain this even in the UK and different other areas, high school students in the 2010s were twice as likely to see a professional for mental health issues than those in the 1980s. More teens struggled to remember things in 2010, 2012 compared to the to earlier period of time, and 73% more reported trouble sleeping compared to the peers in the 1980s. These so-called somatic or of the body symptoms strongly predicted depression. And that's what a lot of this world suffer from is depression. Because you got not only do you have to go for school for like half, but actually all of your childhood, then you got to go out and work basically until you are able to retire. Which in this society now you can't even retire correctly because now even the elderly got to go back to work. So you're basically stuck with slaving from day one on up to now. I mean, on up to the day you die, and even then you got to pay for that mess. So that in itself says a lot. It says it indicates a lot of suffering. Of course, you from all the things we got to endure from fathers being left, getting out of the house, or being put out of the house, or being put into prison, to mothers aborting children. Even as I heard from one person I associated with, that her mother aborted her supposedly was going to be the next born brother, and she was very depressed about it, and the mother didn't even care. So that tells a lot, and it's strange, not even strange, but it's different to see that because I had a meeting with someone today, and he was telling me that he's going to become a father soon. And he was saying that he was even trembling about it because it wasn't out of fear, but out of pure joy. And we can't even enjoy our children in this day in this society because of all the things we got to go through because of women aborting their children. Number one, the women getting their fathers into prison or kicking them out, so the father can't raise the child to be what is supposed to be. And in this year, or I'll say in this day and age, you can't even put the fathers back inside the house. So that's how screwed that is. So I'm gonna get a quick scripture on that now that I'm going into it, because I was going to save it for later. This is Proverbs 30 and 20. It says, "Such is the way of an adulterous woman; she eateth and wipeth her mouth, and saith, I have done no wickedness." And she does the same thing. That's why when you go into Proverbs 31 and 1 through 3, the mother, King Lemuel, said, put not thy strength into women. And in this day and age, we can see why. We can see why, because the woman will backstab you if she's not a loyal woman, because a loyal woman wouldn't do the same mess. She may not be as righteous as she. Well, I mean, no woman is as righteous, but hey, you take the good, you take the bad from the worst, or the good from the worst. But you got a lot of these women out here that will abort a child, and those abortions will be free. Somehow, an abortion is free, but yet that no one complains about a woman getting an abortion. No one complains. It says that this woman should stop opening her legs to every man that she thinks that she can control, and then kick him out, and then you're stuck with a child. That was that woman's fault. See, we can't enjoy our children in this society, and of course, we're not really meant to. Because how look at this society itself. Number one, it's falling. Number two, shit. Sometimes I'm even kind of afraid to even have a child in this society because one, you gotta be worried about the mother, or two, you gotta worry about the influence that's going on around here. Which I'm gonna go into that a little bit, but this is another scripture right here, which is Proverbs 29:2. It says, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn." And that's exactly what's happening as to why are our kids so miserable, to why we are depressed as we grow up, to whereas we come to all these different ideologies to comfort ourselves when we become adulthood, and they get nowhere. To wondering how did our people sell out so much? To wondering it's a lot of things to really go into with this, because you see the effects for what happened for when you're young growing up, and no one ever bothers to question these things. They like it starts always from the stem of when they're young, especially in a group of a household. So it definitely indicates a lot of things, and they even show a chart right here that says show of U.S. college freshmen reporting they are depressed from 2010 to 2015. You can only imagine what it is now in 2021. It must be off the charts with that shit. And it says kids are being diagnosed with higher levels of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Everyone aged 6 to 18 is seeking more mental health services and more medication, which is true because I know a lot of people that's actually seen a therapist because of stuff that goes on at home, sexual assault from family members, from friends and other mess and all sorts of lists. It's a whole list. And no one bothers, and it doesn't really help anybody. They see these therapists, and the therapists ain't really a lot of care. They're just here for the money. So the way this society runs is not meant to make everything better. That's why, again, you see the article that says, "Why are the children so depressed?" And it never goes anywhere. It just stems further. Because as you get older, you will always remember the messed up things that happened to you, which will usually be more than less than people can recall about the good things that happened to them in their lives. So I got another scripture right here. Actually, this is Deuteronomy 28:19. It says, "Cursed shalt thou be when thou goest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out." So curse when you come into the life, and curse when you go out of the life. Because guess what? You gotta pay. It pays to come get you in there into life. It pays to get you out of it too. Because when you die, you gotta pay for that. You gotta pay to die. You gotta pay to live. Pay for water. Pay for food. The things that you shouldn't be paying for, which food I can understand because you always had markets, but you're paying for water. Oh, you're even paying for clothes. I mean, back even before this society, it was in our natural instincts to learn how to make clothes ourselves. We wasn't running around butt naked. I mean, probably for a time, but as you learn, we always learn to make and adapt. That's how these clothes get into these stores, anyways. We learn how to make clothes, and there you go. How you had animal skin pelts, but that's either here and there. But bottom line is, you no matter what happens, your curse coming in here, and this is actually where I'm at. This is Deuteronomy 28:41. It says, "Thou shalt beget sons," meaning you should bring son. I'm sorry, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, meaning you will bring in children into this life. It says, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. And it's true, because now that they're linked into the system, number one, they're born with social security IDs. I forgot the actual name of it, but then you got a birth certificate. I'm sorry, but your social is in all numbers. It's not your name on your ID. It's nothing but numbers. So that's strike one in itself. Strike two is when you're around the wrong influence of what you're supposed to be raised around of, which is technically one of them is being stuck around a bunch of women. When it's supposed to be men teaching the men how to be men. I mean, there's men supposed to be teaching males, the little boys, how to be men, and it's women that's supposed to be teaching women how to be women. But these women would teach these little girls to be harlots. And then you got the social media, which is strike three, that will tell you could be whatever you want to be. You could be a flame. You could transgend to another realm, and it just doesn't work. That's why it says you shall not enjoy them, because a parent can't even enjoy their child anyways, especially when the father's not there, or the mother's just abusive, or not taking care of the children, or telling the children, such as the little girl, to grow up and get a doctor. Go ahead and marry a doctor. And they don't tell them what it means to actually be a woman. Then you got the woman that's treating the son like crap. It's just a nonstop vibration of things that just out to screw us. So this is Romans 1:26. It says, for this cause Yahweh gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change their natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. So no matter how you put it, coming into this life is screwed either way you put it, especially since there's no real way of shielding your children from it. Oh, if anything, a lot of these, specifically mothers, push their children into that stuff. I remember a time where my mother was like, hey, if you turned out to be gay, because I would not, she was saying that if there was ever a chance of that happening, that she would still accept me. I told her that I don't want to be accepted if that was the case, because you might as well put me to death. I don't want to be bound down to the woman. I pray that I don't end up like these flames, because I'd rather be put down on the spot like a dog, if that's the case. I don't want nobody loving me after that, because that in itself is worthy of death, or is worthy of a sin. I mean, if it's anything that can get me out of that mess, this truth is the thing that's keeping me out of that. Because by the Lord's will, He kept me, various brothers, and He held even my actual family away from that madness. Because we don't follow that mess. We ain't with that Babylon juice. And the Lord's been protecting us for years because it hasn't happened to any of us. Whereas it's been happening to a lot of other people. That a lot of people come out of the closet and say, hey, I'm this and that. The Lord protected us for a long time. Even down to my parents being young from doing into that madness. So that in itself is a blessing. To know that the Lord's actually been protecting us technically for a whole generation. So it's a blessing. It's like it's a blessing that never has happened to us. I mean, we done gone through some messed up things, seeing how messed up life is, but for the Lord to keep us from all these other ideologies, from us ending up like flames, from us ending up even dead, really. Now, not saying that we like living in this society, but it's a blessing to be able to do the work of the Lord to be allowed to be able to do the work of the Lord instead of being dead like the rest, like an actual 2/3 that's dying over a woman. I'd rather die in the truth to the Lord than die to a female that we know for a fact isn't going to stick with me or anybody else if something was to go down. So that says a lot. So the bottom line is that we now see why our lifestyles are so different compared to how we're supposed to live. We are supposed to be in a household where the father is supposed to be disciplining us with a stern ferocity, not in an abusive way, but in an actual carrying that, hey, I'm gonna whip your butt if you keep going off. That is the difference between having a disciplined child and a non-disciplined child. Because a lot of if these because even if these kids was disciplined in the right way, especially in this truth, a lot of it wouldn't be happening. But the Lord said it this way so we can know what is good. I'm sorry, so we can know what is bad from good. And when this kingdom is established, we will know what's good. Because this right here is bad. It's the reason why this place is falling in the first place. So that's pretty much all I wanted to go in with that. So with that, shalom.